quick demo of monitoring activity in RAC. I'll just show you. I've created a transaction sequence using the default parameters and then a transactions table with transaction ID, timestamp, node name and description. So then I've run a PL/SQL loop. So it's going to run 100,000 inserts and sleep after every 100 inserts. So this is on node 1. Similarly, you can see the same loop running on node 2 where the node name is node 2 during the insert. So it's 100,000 rows being inserted from each node. If you open up SQL Developer, you can see there's something called instance viewer in the DBA view. So this is my instance viewer screen and I can see the weights here. Top SQL, so these are the two PL/SQL blocks you can see here, and if you go to the right you can see they're running from the two instances in my cluster. Executions is 0 because the PL/SQL blocks are still being executed, they're not completed execution, but within each PL/SQL block you can see these insert statements. So insert node 1 and insert for node 2, and you can see there's been 62,000 or 63,000 inserts so far over 13 and 12.8 seconds from the two nodes. So the instance viewer from SQL Developer in RAC actually gives you the top SQLs from both the instances, and here you can see the wait events grouped by the different classes of wait events. These are the active sessions here. Then you can also drill down to, in the DBA view you can look at real-time SQL monitor. So this is my real-time SQL monitor. These two red marks are the ones which I had run previously to test this whole thing. So I stopped them after some time. These are the top two which are currently running. You can see they're running from instance 1 and instance 2. For the statements, since there's just PL/SQL blocks with insert statements, there's no execution plan, so we don't need to look at execution plans. Where we can see CPU used and memory used. So this is the real-time SQL monitor from the DBA view in SQL Developer. And then you also have something called events in the past so many minutes. That's from the reports view. You go to reports view, database administration, waits, events in the past 10 x minutes. So I'm running this for the past 10 minutes, that's x, and I'm refreshing this every 30 seconds. So here you can see there are a lot of wait events. NQPS contention is the contention for the sequence because I've defined the sequence using the default parameters. Okay. If you look up the documentation on the create sequence statement, you can see there's a number of options you can define about ordering and caching, and those are very important when you are using RAC. So you can reduce contention for the sequence in your create sequence statement itself. So that's the contention for the sequence. Then there's a lot of cluster weights. You can see cluster weights happening. Okay, let me just, we don't need to look at the SQL text here, but you can see the cluster weights. There's a bit of IO weights also, and CPU usage. So over the last 10 minutes there have been 19 samples of CPU usage on instance 1 and 23 on instance 2, and how many occurrence of each type of cluster weight on each instance. So this is instance 2, this is instance 2 here, instance 1. Unfortunately this report is not ordered by instance and event, but you can see the different type of weights. You can of course write your own query on the $v views and monitor it, or later you can run AWR reports also, ASH and AWR reports you can run later. So those will be available from here, from the DBA view in SQL Developer, ASH and AWR. So I'm just running this for a short while. I'm not going to generate AWR reports, but you can see real time. Even AWR is for what has happened in the past, ASH is what has happened in the most recent past. But these three views in SQL Developer give you the activity real time. So you look at instance viewer from database status, shows me the top SQLs from the two instances. These are PL/SQL blocks, these are the insert statements. So there's been 81,000 and 82,000 executions of the inserts so far. Weights by weight class. Then if you look at real-time SQL monitor from the tuning section of DBA view, you can see these two are the SQL statements that are currently running. They've been running for almost 15 minutes now. In this case it just shows the top level PLSQL block, but if you look at the text you can see the insert statement inside the PLSQL block. So in they're running from the two instances, instance 2 and instance 1, and in the reports view there's something called events in the past X minutes. So I've set this to run for events for the past 10 minutes and refresh every 30 seconds. So you can see cluster wait events which have occurred recently. You can see contention for the sequence, and of course you can see CPU usage. Let's just hide the SQL text, because that is not, the SQL text you see here is not actually related to the event that I click on. So it will be confusing if you look at this and then look at the SQL text. So we don't need to like SQL text. Here we are interested in the events. This is from the reports section of SQL Developer 23.1. Instance viewer is from the DBA section of SQL Developer 23.1, and real-time monitor is from the tuning section of SQL Developer 23.1. So I'm running 23.1 here.